Welcome. Welcome to invidisXworld. This is something brand new and something which was born after our DSS 2020, the show, our big conference which took place, or which we broadcasted live from a TV studio in Hanover. And so many people afterwards contacted us, not only from Europe, but from across the world, and asked us, please give us more insights, show us more what's really happening out there. And that's what we're doing now with invidisXworld. It's our show. We will meet 250 experts around the world. We start today in Berlin. It's this fantastic place. And then we move across Europe, Asia, and later on also to America. And we will speak with 250 experts, look at 300 different locations, offices, stores, airports, everything, and look what's really happening. Having a look behind the scenes, what digital signage can do, but not only limited to digital signage, but also retail technology and other things. So this pandemic has also some good things. It brings moving pictures, it brings Invidis Meets the World to your screen, and that's when we'll start. So Stefan, what will we present?
Yes, we want to produce a bi-weekly format so you can watch us every other week, reporting about best practice, not only in retail, but also in offices, in industry, in airports, as Florian said. But we don't want to just look at projects. We also want to talk to people who actually build these projects, who make them come to life. So it's a look behind the scenes that we want to take. But we also want to introduce the key players in each market. So digital signage integrators, technology providers, but also talk to customers. And last but not least, we also talk to senior managers, senior leaders about broader trends that shape the industry. Look really out of the box and understand what's driving the broader picture. And of course, as we always do, we want to put things in perspective. We want to analyze what it means for digital signage players, what it means for customers. And to do that, we have a hopefully entertaining format with short reports, but also with interviews, with talks. So really looking forward to having these talks on an international level. And Florian, where are we planning to go?
Well, what's so interesting about it, this is real stuff. We're not in a studio or so, we really travel around the world. And today we started in the German capital, and then we move in Berlin, and then we move on to Munich, we will go to Zurich, we will visit London, we will visit Copenhagen, we will visit Paris, and then we move on to the Middle East, to Dubai, and then to Asia, and later on to North America. So really, really exciting. On the road to ISE, which is scheduled for June 2021, we will really visit every 2 weeks a different place and give you really fantastic insights, not from the studio, but we will talk with real people. Yes, it's not always easy in pandemic times. We need masks, obviously. Travel is quite difficult, but we are going this extra mile to bring you the best of digital signage, the best of digital retail, and probably also the best of transportation and offices.
Yeah, we are in Bikini Berlin, a mall here in Berlin, and it is a shared space. And we had this project at Euroshop in the spring this year. Had it on a trade show. Here it's a real thing. Here are many things happening, not only retail, but also talks, also music and other events. So this is a shared space, and behind me you can see a beautiful art thing that's going on here. It's gift wrapping. So these special gift wraps were designed by artists, and you can come here and get your gifts wrapped. And this is not only a physical thing, but it's also a digital thing, because all this campaign is, you can see it on social media, you can see it in the internet. That brings people in and brings people to a physical location. And that's something very important for us, the mix of physical location and digital campaigns.
And Stefan, before we dive into the city, you can also download our magazine. It's as an Invidis yearbook. It's free for download on invidis.de and invidis.com, and you can get all the information, not only about Berlin, about the other things, but about background of the industry. So free to download. First thing you should do, and maybe you download for Christmas and you can wrap it. Good morning, Guido.
Good morning, Florian. How are you today?
I'm fine, thanks. Thanks for having us here in your fantastic flagship room and showroom. It looks really, really good.
Thank you.
Guido, zetna is a very special company. Most people haven't heard probably about you, but you're already in the business for 10 years. Mm-hmm. So when did you start? How did zetna start? And what's the history about the company?
We started in the late 90s. We actually have a systems integration background. We did real-time rendering and data visualization on high-end supercomputers from Silicon Graphics back in the time. And we also did trade shows, and we had to use these obscure tape recorders and VCRs and DVD playback to do projection. And we had an idea. We had this dream of why can't we use a standard computer to play back images, text, video, data viz, put this into a wonderful rendering machine on a computer and use this in a ubiquitous space and make this all available on demand. And then we started developing our own rendering engine. And a few years later, we thought, wow, this is actually working really well for us. Why don't we productize it and bring it to the market?
So you're already long in the business, long before digital signage was born.
Totally.
You're famous, or sedna is famous, for being Mac-based. Why did you choose Mac, and why have you changed the strategy recently?
Yeah, that's a good question. We love Mac. We love Apple. They have great products, great design. They have wonderful hardware, which is super reliable. And the interoperability between the hardware and the software is just impeccable. However, back in the time, like 5-6 years ago, people started asking us, we would like to have more offerings just than the Mac Mini or the Mac Pro. What can you do for us? And we sat down and thought, Mac is Unix-based anyway. Why don't we port everything to Linux, where we come from originally? And so we did that, and we had great feedback, and we developed that, and now we have a wonderful choice that is super scalable from the low-end mini computers to all the way high-end PCs. And
another bold move from you, you decided to create and design your own media player. Aren't there enough media players out there which you could use?
Yes, there are. Yes, there are, and we would love to. We did a lot of research on that. We took a look at most systems in this space, and we tried to figure out if we can partner with these media player devices and the companies that make them. But they all had these caveats and drawbacks that we didn't want to live with. Either the processor was not right, or the graphics card was not right, and whatnot. And we thought if we do something like that, then we have to make it really, really good for our customers. So at the same time, interoperability between software and hardware should be really good. And we didn't want to settle for anything less than the best. So we got the best and fastest desktop processor out there. We got the latest and the greatest graphics cards in there. And we didn't want to compromise. That's why we did it.
That's the reason you created a red box.
Yes, we created our infamous red box, exactly.
Germany is famous for its hidden champion. You're a little bit hidden champion because you're quite successful in the US. I think when you go to Times Square or so, the majority of the screens are run by your software, is that right?
That's correct, yes, that's correct. Thank you for saying that, but we don't see ourselves as champions. We're just a small company from Berlin that has a few principles, and we're obsessed by them. First principle is quality. We want to deliver the highest quality playback software out there for even the most discerning customers and clients. The second principle is scalability. We want to make sure that we have something that can run on as little as a compute stick or Apple TV, all the way up to a cluster of media engines with 64 4K outputs, frame locked and whatnot. And the other scalability option is, of course, as far as the screens are concerned. Some of our clients have thousands of screens out there, and they use our software and CMS to distribute and deliver their messages on those screens. The third principle is openness and interoperability. We truly believe that a playback system should be able to react to outside things like sensors or data. And at the same time, it should be able to trigger outside systems like other devices and use this in a very novel way. And the fourth principle is very, very easy. It's user friendliness and customer service. And we are very, very lucky to have wonderful clients and partners out there that subscribe and believe in those principles, probably because it's part of their own philosophy.
Mm. And did it start because LED walls are more difficult to manage and control in the past, at least, and not many players in the market were able to deliver that value? Or
that's a very good question, and to be honest with you, I cannot answer this completely. What we saw when we started the first install in Times Square, that people looked at the screen and thought, well, there's less blue screens from hell because everything was playing with Windows and whatnot. They had less downtime, so they looked at it and said, wow, the quality should be really good, and we don't want to have downtime. I mean, the screen real estate in Times Square is really super expensive. So when you play an ad, you pay thousands of dollars for that, and you don't want it to be black or blue. And that's how it came about.
We have to talk about Corona-19, the pandemic, unfortunately. How was 2020 for you, and what do you expect for 2021?
Like for everybody else, it hit us really hard. It was a very difficult year for us so far. The budgets and the investments have been even postponed or axed altogether. We cannot travel anywhere. The travel restrictions are so bad for us. We cannot send our beautiful and wonderful team out there to the installs and deliver the solutions that we want to. Fortunately, we have great partners out there that are helping us a lot, so we can do that remotely. We do remote sessions at night with them to do this in the United States or in Asia. So that's great. However, it has hit us hard. As far as 2021 is concerned, we are looking forward to great and wonderful projects that are coming up. And we also have a wonderful arsenal of new things that are in our pipeline as far as features and products are concerned. We can't wait to deliver those to our clients.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming here.
The first store we visited today was the Globetrotter outdoor store. How did you like it?
Very nice concept, a lot of digital, for me even on the high side of number of screens, so I would expect that as a rollout concept, but for a flagship store definitely a very nice concept.
What was quite interesting, I think, was there was only one small screen in the shop window, which, obviously, because it's not in downtown, but in the subcenter of the city, probably makes sense. But once you come into the store, you have these beautiful screens which are integrated into, next to wooden birch trees, looked really, really nice. So it wasn't this cold technology which conflicts with nature and the whole outdoor concept, but they really tried hard to integrate it. So I really like that.
And the content obviously also plays to that point. Beautiful nature shots. Very beautiful content, so that was very well done.
More screens when you went up, when you went down, right next to the escalator obviously. There was innovation zone. What about the innovation zone?
That was something that wasn't integrated in the initial concept, obviously. There were a double-sided screen or back-to-back screen. You could see the cables between, and as there was very much LED light, they seemed a bit dark compared to the overall lighting situation. So that was something where you could see that's post-initial concept integrated.
We really liked the checkout zone. Fantastic, really stretch bar type screens, which really, really looked nice behind the checkout.
Yeah, that was my personal highlight in that store. Really, the bar type behind the cashier looked really beautiful.
And one thing we have to mention, feedback terminals. Maybe most of our readers and our viewers know that we are often quite critical about them because in general, they're very small, but we know for many retailers and for the staff they're essential because they're part of their KPIs. So what wasn't perfect about the feedback terminal?
They were just in the wrong locations. They were standing next to the escalator areas, and that's not where people give feedback. They should be next to the cashier zone or at the exit of the store, but at these placements I don't think they will get a lot of feedback.
Yeah, feedback terminals belong to the end of the customer journey, at least of the store, the physical store, and so it's important to place them at the exit or where people have time at the checkout.
The concept of Futurium is to talk about futures. There's not only one future, there are many options to think about the future. Our vision is to ask people, how do you want to live? So visitors in Futurium can expect, first of all, a big exhibition about futures options. All these options are categorized in three parts. So this is nature, humans, and techniques.
Actually, this area is specifically about making the invisible visible, which means that our cities and our environment will not change a lot in the next, let's say, 10 or 20 years. But there's an invisible layer of data, and this actually changes everything, how we interact with each other, how we live in the cities. So the whole idea here is to make this invisible data visible. So for that we use iPads with augmented reality technology, and we have this physical models, and you see the models of the things, how they are in real or for real, and then you can actually, with the iPad, you can discover all the hidden layers. You can see what types of communication, what types of digital information there is, and how these things kind of change the world that we live in physically.
Das, was sich von anderen Museen abhebt. Man hat immer die Problematik, dass die Inhalte so überladen sind, dass man es gar nicht schafft, das an einem Tag, also man kann wochenweise in den Museen verbringen. Hier hat man die Vorteile, dass man Inhalte sammeln kann. Die werden fast realtime hinterlegt im Internet. Natürlich entsprechend der Datenschutzrichtlinien mit kodierten IDs und sind sofort abzurufen.
Willkommen, wir haben heute hier Charlotte Tamschick, Partnerin und Kreativdirektorin von Tamschick, Media und Space. Ich glaube, das Space ist ganz wichtig, oder?
Genau, Tamschick, Media und Space, immer die Fusion von Medien und Space. Darum geht es bei uns, von Medien und Raum. Storytelling im Raum, deswegen Space sehr wichtig im Namen.
Und das ist nämlich eine riesen Herausforderung, weil es gibt sehr, sehr viele, die sich sehr wohlfühlen auf digitalen Plattformen, digital sich alles machen, aber die vergessen oft die Wirkung des Raumes. Und das ist ganz, ganz schwierig. Und ihr seid, glaube ich, wirklich ein Spezialist für immersive oder immersive Geschichten. Genau. Kannst du mal kurz erzählen, was für Projekte ihr so gemacht habt und was so eure typische Arbeit eigentlich ist?
Also wir machen eigentlich mediale Szenografie, das heißt, wir entwickeln und produzieren Projekte im Raum. Das sind Inszenierungen für Museen, Ausstellungen, Showrooms, Messen. Und wir versuchen immer, die Menschen zu entführen in fremde Welten, Geschichten zu erzählen, auch sperrige Inhalte medial zu vermitteln mit Sound und Ton und Film.
Aber der Raum spielt eine Rolle. Es ist nicht Brille auf, VR-Brille auf und in eine fremde Welt gehen, sondern der ganze Raum spielt eine Rolle, ne?
Genau, bei uns ist wichtig, dass man den Raum wirklich immersiv erlebt, mit den Sinnen drinsteht, ihn fühlt, ihn riecht, ihn sieht. Und wir versuchen eben, den Besucher wirklich zu entführen in fremde Welten. Das heißt, wir bespielen auch sehr große Räume. Also anders als andere Firmen haben wir oft ganze Paläste und Fassaden für uns. Und wir wollen im Grunde, dass der Besucher die Realität verlässt und in ein, wenn du so willst, virtuelles Erlebnis gerät, aber eben mit Hilfe von immersiven audiovisuellen Medien.
Ein Projekt hast du mitgebracht aus Jerusalem. Viel älter gibt's fast gar nicht. Jeder, der in Jerusalem ist, kennt das natürlich so ein bisschen. Erzähl mal kurz, was ihr da gemacht habt.
Genau, Jerusalem war ein sehr spannendes Projekt aus vielerlei Hinsicht, kulturell und auch von der Inszenierung. Das geht um ein Kloster am Fuße der Via Dolorosa. Und hier sollten wir die 3000-jährige Geschichte Jerusalems erzählen, anhand von archäologischen Grabsteinen und der Geschichte eben. Wir hatten es zu tun mit italienischen Franziskanermönchen, die uns natürlich auch sehr viel Inhalt geliefert haben. Und wir haben dann eine Inszenierung gemacht, die besteht aus Licht, Sound und Projektion. Gerne können wir auch ein paar Bilder dazu sehen. Also es gibt einen Teil, der besteht aus den Grabsteinen, die mit Licht inszeniert werden, und über eine Stimme wird die Geschichte erzählt. Dann bewegt man sich weiter als Besucher und gerät in eine zweite Phase, wo man auf einem abstrahierten Stadtmodell von der Stadt Jerusalem die 3000-jährige Geschichte erleben kann über Projektionen auf dieses Modell. Und am Schluss gibt es noch Projektionen von Pilgern auf die Steine direkt, sodass die Pilger direkt auf ihren Weg zur Pilgerstraße mitgenommen werden.
Ich glaube, das ist das Spannende an diesen Projekten, die ihr oft macht, dass ihr das alles vermischt. Das verschmilzt sich quasi der digitale Inhalt mit den 3000 Jahre alten Steinen. Deshalb, glaube ich, mögt ihr auch so gerne Projektion, ne? Weil das ist nicht ein Display oder irgendwas, wo das alles so künstlich wirkt, so kalt.
Unmittelbarer berührt davon, und der Ort ist eben extrem wichtig bei uns. Also wir machen authentische, unique Projekte, die nicht auf andere Orte zugemünzt werden können. Also dieser Ort wird erst analysiert und recherchiert und dann wird für diesen Ort die Inszenierung entwickelt.
Und es ist ja nicht nur das Sehen, sondern auch das Riechen, das Fühlen. So ein Raum hat ja eine ganz andere Aura noch als so ein kalter Kinosaal oder sowas, ne?
Ja, absolut. Also dieses Authentische, das mögen wir sehr gerne, und genau da inszenieren wir auch sehr gerne und sind bekannt dafür.
Ein anderes Projekt, was ganz anderes, habt ihr für Saudi-Arabien gemacht. Ich glaube, Expo 2010 war das oder sowas, wenn ich recht bin. Das war jetzt kein 3000 Jahre altes Gebäude, obwohl es das sicherlich auch irgendwo in der Gegend noch gibt. Erzählt mal, was ihr da gemacht habt. Das war ein ganz neuer Raum, und da habt ihr sehr viel auch mit Projektion gearbeitet, ne?
Genau, das war der saudi-arabische Pavillon auf der Expo, und da ist es natürlich ein ganz anderes Format. Da muss man in 10 Minuten dem Publikum die Geschichte Saudi-Arabiens vermitteln. Und man fliegt hier wie auf einem fliegenden Teppich über das Land. Medial, also das sind, glaube ich, war mit die größte Projektionsfläche, die wir je bespielt haben. 2 Fußballfeldgroße Projektionen. Und mir geht es da jetzt gar nicht so sehr um die Größe an sich, sondern um die Wirkung. Man steht wirklich in diesem Film drin, im Inhalt, in den Bildern. Und wir hatten wirklich ein wahnsinniges Glück, weil die Besucher so begeistert waren, dass die diese 10 Minuten oft mehrfach sich angeguckt haben und dafür stundenlang anstanden. Also diese Immersion wollen die Menschen mit Sound und Musik und Bild.
Das ist ja schon eine Herausforderung. Ich meine, jetzt auch, wir sind in Zeiten von Corona natürlich, kann man sich fast nicht mehr vorstellen, ne? So volle Geschichten wie die Expo mal war und sowas. Kann man durch Bilder und durch Räume auch eine große Menge von Menschen in so kurzer Zeit in die Story abholen? Geht das, weil es dunkel dann ist? Oder wie schafft ihr das dann? Oder wie erzählt ihr diese Story?
Ja, also Storytelling ist ein wichtiger Baustein bei uns und das hat viel mit Dramaturgie zu tun. Also wir arbeiten ein bisschen wie im Theater. Man entwickelt die Geschichte nach ganz bestimmten Kriterien und da ist eigentlich die Länge der Geschichte gar nicht so relevant, sondern wirklich der Aufbau und die Dramaturgie. Ein
Projekt ein bisschen näher. Wir waren in China, in Shanghai, wir waren in Riyadh, nicht in Riyadh, in Jerusalem und sind jetzt in Dresden. Sachsen, da habt ihr auch was gemacht. Erzähl mal, was war das für ein Projekt?
Genau, das ist auch sehr spannend. Die Festung in Dresden, die Inszenierung nennt sich Festung Experience, ist eine Inszenierung, die die Festung selbst als Hauptexponat benutzt. Das heißt, wir haben die Steine, die Gemäuer, die alten, und erzählen über Projektionen und Sound und ein lebendiges Hörspiel die Geschichte der Festung in einer Dreiviertelstunde im Grunde genommen. Und das Besondere ist, man läuft sozusagen an 10 verschiedenen Stationen durch die Festung und erlebt in kleinen Mini-Geschichten innerhalb der großen Metastory eben diese ganzen Inhalte, die für den Besucher so wichtig sind, zu verstehen.
Podcast, Hörspiele, das ist ja eine Sache, die total in ist so ein bisschen. Muss ich mir das vorstellen, dass jeder seine individuelle Geschichte gehört in seiner eigenen Sprache oder komme ich in den Raum rein und dann hören alle die gleiche Geschichte? Oder wie muss ich das vorstellen?
Also in Dresden ist es so, man kriegt ein Headset und hört dann, alle hören dieselbe Geschichte, aber im eigenen Tempo. Das ist das Besondere dabei, also das ist auch ein besonderes System von Usomo. Man setzt den Kopfhörer auf und kann wirklich sich im Raum bewegen und hört auch 360 Grad tatsächlich, was eine Innovation ist. Man nähert sich der Geschichte, dem Bild und hört es dann lauter, man dreht den Kopf und hört dann auch in den entsprechenden Richtungen die Geschichte.
Das heißt, ein Trekking findet statt? Das
findet ein Trekking im kompletten unterirdischen Raum statt, was innovativ ist. Und das gibt einem natürlich ein tolles Gefühl, wenn man taucht komplett ein in die Geschichte mit diesem Kopfhörer und läuft individuell im eigenen Tempo durch. Aber die Geschichte ist immer für alle dieselbe, ja.
Technologie hat sich ja unheimlich weiterentwickelt in den letzten Jahren. Wie nutzt ihr denn das? Also ist das für euch eine Last oder mehr Spaß daran, weil es immer neue Optionen gibt? Oder sagst du hast eigentlich schon so viele Tools an der Hand, du könntest eigentlich mit der jetzigen Technologie schon wahnsinnig viel machen, wenn der Kunde bereit wäre, dafür zu zahlen oder man die Zeit hätte oder sowas?
Also ich glaube, wir sind spezialisiert auf dieses Storytelling und auf das Format. Und es gibt sicher Firmen, die noch innovativer technologisch unterwegs sind. Das kann ich schon sagen. Ich würde auch sagen, das ist nicht unser Hauptinteresse. Wir bleiben natürlich am Puls der Zeit. Wir entwickeln gerade auch ein Projekt mit Virtual Reality und Augmented Reality und entwickeln Formate, um auf die Corona-Begebenheiten einzugehen. Aber wir sind jetzt nicht, das ist nicht unser primäres Anliegen, Technologie immer an erste Stelle zu stellen. Für uns würde ich sagen, ist immer der Inhalt das Wichtigste, die Geschichte, die wir erzählen und das passende Format für den passenden Ort zu finden.
Noch eine persönliche Frage. Du bist ja sehr engagiert in Hochschulen und anderen Geschichten. Was sind so die Themen, die junge Menschen, Studenten an dich ranbringen, wo du sagst, so, wow, das waren Themen, die hat mich damals noch nicht so betroffen oder so hat sich die Denke verändert oder sowas. Spürst du da irgendwie, dass du sagen kannst, so, wow, da wächst eine neue Generation an, die ganz anders mit Medien umgeht oder Medien aufnimmt oder sowas?
Na, ich merke schon, dass die Studenten immer überrascht sind, wie viel man machen kann mit dem Studium. Also da sind die ganz baff, dass man mit einem Szenografiestudium oder einem Innenarchitekturstudium vorher dann so breite Möglichkeiten hat und auch im medialen Bereich anfangen kann. Und was ich sehr stark vermittle und auch die Studenten sehr gerne aufnehmen, ist eben, dass man auch als Kulturwissenschaftler, wie ich es auch bin, in diesem gestalterischen Beruf einen wichtigen Aspekt erfüllt, nämlich diese Dramaturgie entwickeln, die Storys erzählen und so weiter. Das ist vielleicht eine wichtige Sache, die Sie lernen dort.
Auch die Verdichtung, dass Storys heute in kürzer Zeit erklärt werden müssen, sowas? Man hat nicht mehr so viel Zeit?
Das ist auch irgendwas, was ich wirklich erst viel später nach meinem eigenen Kunstgeschichtsstudium gelernt habe, dass sie wirklich auf den Punkt bringen, die Geschichte, das ist bei uns ganz wichtig, auch im Beruf und in den Projekten.
Ja. Nicht nur bei euch, auch bei uns auf den Punkt bringen. Man hat leider immer nur ganz wenig Zeit. Aber ich freue mich so super, dass du heute da warst. Total spannend und wir verlinken natürlich auch auf eurer Webseite und auch auf Videos, da kann man ein bisschen was gucken. Total spannende Projekte. Danke, Charlotte Tamschick, dass du da warst.
Vielen Dank. Ich freue mich, dass ich da sein durfte. Viel Erfolg.
The pandemic breeds invention and sometimes leads to spectacular projects. Allianz Cinema On Tour presents cinema highlights, in the truest sense of the word, and at an altitude of 1,350 meters. When the open-top gondola of the Stanzerhorn cable car becomes the most adventurous open-air cinema in the world. Breathtaking perspectives, not only on the action film Cold Pursuit, but also on Lake Lucerne are included. And in February, we talked to the people behind this project.
Because of Corona, the movie industry has to think about new ways to shoot their movies. In the past, it was really easy to travel to any film location that we wanted. But now, there are many restrictions and we have to find new ways. Luckily, there are new technologies to cope with this new situation. The Samsung wall is such an invention. The wall from Samsung gives us the opportunity to create almost any scenery we wanted without leaving the studio. It gives us all the advantages of the traditional green screen, but without all the extra work in post-production. Now you can do everything in a controlled environment. You can do it in the studio. You don't have to care about daylight. You don't have to care about the background, because if you want to have the same background again, it's just a mouse click away. And if you don't want to use real footage, with the Unreal Engine Marketplace, you have thousands and thousands of pre-designed landscapes, houses, everything you want. And if you are looking for a really unique film set, then just build one of your own. After these first tests, I really believe that we want to go larger. I think this will be the future. The more we work with the wall, the more ideas we will get.
Mercedes-Benz Platz between Warschauer Straße, Spree and Ostbahnhof, one of the digital signage hotspots in the capital. 8 media towers with 2 screens each in a size of 10 square meters are lined up to advertise events, play digital out-of-home ads, and are digital touchpoints for red carpet events. Extra large LEDs with 88 square meter each shine from the facade of the UCI Kinowelt. Additional screens at the Verti Music Hall add glitz, glitter and glamour to the square with the star. A bit of Times Square feeling in Berlin. Even if the Mercedes-Benz Arena has to stay closed at the moment, the square is worth a detour even in times of Corona, a real eye-catcher, especially at night. And for all Berlin visitors, the East Side Gallery with remains of the Berlin Wall is just around the corner.
Hi Jens, thanks for welcoming us here at Experience One in Berlin. Can you talk a bit about yourself and what Experience One is all about?
Originally, we come from an automotive background. We worked for Mercedes, our founding client in 2006. Now we have 3 offices in Stuttgart, Frankfurt and Berlin. We are in our core a digital agency, but we evolved to sort of integrate also physical touch points and try to look at customer experience in a holistic way. So yes, we are digital at its core, but we always include the physical realm to create the best possible customer experiences for our clients. So
you're perfect for us, because this combination of digital and physical spaces, that's what interests us, is actually how to combine it, how to make it really one thing. Because what we see very often is that in physical spaces, digital is planned at a very late stage. So it comes kind of unnatural into the picture. But your approach is more of thinking physical and digital from the very beginning.
Yeah, we don't differentiate according to channels, because for us the experience is the most important thing. And also from my personal history, I started with on the client side with Mercedes, then worked for several digital agencies, and then had a 4 to 5 year long excursion into advertisement and communication. And you realize that you sort of need to bring it all together into one experience. Advertising communication is important, but the experience itself you have with the service, with the product, is as important as branding, and becomes the new branding. And you can't really differentiate it between this is digital, this is analog. It's all one thing now. So you always have to have a certain omni-channel approach to go about it. And that's what we focus on as a company, also with our strategy and how we approach projects.
So it's really important to understand the full process, right?
Yes, yes. And I think lots of solutions, sometimes they fall short because they only either concentrate on a great product representation, and we also have like a huge video wall and a touch table, and they can put like little fabric patterns onto the touch table and then it shows up in 3D. But the hard part is behind what happens behind, because all the designers of that company, they need to sort of change their design process, because they now need to create the shirts in a 3D tool and not with scissors and pen. That's for one. And then you also need to integrate lots of IT systems in the background to actually not only send the order out, but also to help consult the buyer better. So now you have all the historical sales data, and you can say, well, the green shirts last year didn't sell well, maybe you should take different colors. So it's also the different quality of consultancy that now the salesperson from this company has. But it takes a lot of things in the background. And if you look at sometimes digital retail solutions, they either are very fancy in the front end, but then behind that you can't fulfill the order, or there's nothing happening with it. So again, there's a break. Or you have the process right, but it doesn't look nice on the front end.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking a lot about, is the actual back-end integration, or the full integration of systems, because if you have these breaks in between, you don't realize the full potential. But it also sounds like awfully complex projects to manage several back-end systems, integrate that into, then basically bringing it to a front-end tool, and on top of all of that, also a change management project, right?
Yeah, but I think that's the fun part of our jobs. When you work in agencies and are able to sort of redesign a core business process, it always involves processes, people, and the way they work. So there's a lot of change happening, and you need to have a buy-in from upper management, of course, and that only works if you can also prove the success. And of course, like then during the pandemic, you can question, well, will they go actually to the showroom because of quarantine, etc. But because you have digitized all these backend processes, you can also now take the showroom experience remotely and have a solution for when you cannot actually physically go there because of lockdown. And they also realize that's a big help, because in February, January, they will present their new collection and they can't present it. They have it there, still physical, because they're in a transition process, but all the 300-500 buyers from all over Germany, they can't come to this location. And now they try to do Teams meeting and try to film the shirts. And because we have digitized the whole process behind it, now we can also design it for web, and that's what we're also doing.
So perfect timing right now with the pandemic.
Yeah, well, I think it would be better if they could come, but of course now, I mean, it has been said a lot that the pandemic is also sort of a focus glass, or like it speeds up digital projects, and this showroom process is responsible for 80% of the revenue. So this is the main sales tool, and they need to have a digital solution for it. So it's I think we started at the right time, a little bit before the pandemic, to get it all up and running. But we're very happy to help them.
Yeah. So that's super interesting. But do you have another one, probably from a retail side? I know you're working for Mercedes-Benz in China. I think you did a lot of retail for them.
We did, and are still doing so. China's a little bit of a different market. They're very advanced with digital tools, also with digital retail. And they approached us with two insights, or two challenges. One being Mercedes expanded a lot in China over the last decade. And so they have lots of flagship stores, or big dealerships, but not so big anymore because they go to the city centers where the rents are high. It's a common known problem, but a huge product offering. They can't fit all the cars in there, so you need to have a digital representation of all these models. And the second insight was that maybe the sales personnel is not as, because they expanded also so fast, not as well versed in like how to sell the brand and bring across the feeling of the brand and do a good consultancy. So that's why we designed a sort of a self-service station, also with a touch table and a video wall installation, where people can come in and have a first touch point with the brand in the retail store and explore the brand, the product portfolio, and configure their car. And it's also serves as a first cue in an interaction with the dealer, so it can pick up that configuration and start a discussion. So it helps both sides to get a feeling for the brand, and the salesperson maybe has a little bit more time and lots of people are there, but then also has a talking point when it comes to that. And it's live in over 600 retailers. So that's, we want to change, or that's always what we set out to do. We want to really change the customer experience, and you can only do that if you impact a lot of people. And in retail, you need to have lots of locations to do that.
You're coming from an experience side and from a conceptual side. But in terms of technology, are you missing anything? Or are you saying there are so many possibilities with the technology we have currently at hand, so we can actually do what we want to do? Or do you think that would be one cool thing that I would really love to see?
Actually, it's a very good question, not that easy to answer, because the first reaction is, yeah, let's do all the fancy new technology that is out there, and we also play with it. We play with projection mapping, etc. So we have a little also lab going on for ourselves to do like technical exploration. But when it comes to real life projects, sometimes it's better to be not at the forefront when your goal is to create customer impact. My personal example was I was in Beijing to do also, when we visited Mercedes, to do a little research, and they're really like a couple of years ahead of Europe, and they have these augmented reality mirrors in, I think it's Intersport, their flagship store. So you can stand in front of these augmented reality mirrors, and you are being scanned in, and then you can swipe and change the shirts, the trousers, whatsoever. It's a nice feature. But then I expect I can press a button and then the sales personnel would come in and bring me that trouser or whatever. No, you say, okay, this is the one I like. Now I have to find it in 4 stories. So again, the process behind is not really integrated. And then it becomes just like a little eye candy instead of solving a real world problem. So I think it's fun to explore technology, but when it comes to creating customer impact, you always need to sort of find the right balance when it has the right maturity to make a difference, and when maybe to wait a little longer.
Thank you very much, Jan.
Thank you.
Good. We're here at the Gedächtniskirche, and this is how digital Berlin is. No, I'm just kidding. If you turn around, you see here, this is the newest network from Hygh. These are Samsung high brightness screens, and Hygh is a startup based here in Berlin, and they're looking for new networks, new opportunities. So they place their screens in these boxes here, which are just on the boardwalk, and they're on all 4 sides. You have high brightness screens. They're not very tall, but as you can see, quite bright. And their business model is to offer really local-based advertisement, and not only here in the main streets, but also in some of the more areas of the city where people live and where you have just small stores or so. So for them, it's really offering a network which covers the full of Berlin. And obviously, they're also looking at in getting some of the screens to other cities across Europe. We have them also at the show, so we will have an interview with them, and it's quite interesting to see. So here, high brightness screens, and if you turn around, you can see the Levi's store. And the Levi's store obviously shows what you can do with LED. You can see it from far away, nicely placed on the top so you can see it, you know, even if people block it, and then all the way inside with a screen and with some LED in the background. So quite nicely done. Willkommen zum nächsten Segment. Willkommen Antonius Link und Fritz Frey. Ich glaube, wir können die Masken abnehmen, wir haben genug Abstand. Schön, dass ihr da seid. Ihr seid Hygh, ihr seid ein bisschen die Disruptors der Digital Out-of-Home-Branche. Erzählt doch mal, was für ein Netzwerk ihr habt, wer ihr eigentlich seid und was ihr so anbietet.
Erstmal vielen Dank für die Einladung, Florian. Wir sind jetzt aktuell mit ca. 300 Displays in Berlin vertreten, aufgeteilt auf 2 verschiedene Netzwerke. Das eine Netzwerk ist das City-Netzwerk. Das sind 200 Samsung-Bildschirme in den Schaufenstern von diversen Spätis und weiteren Shops in Berlin, aufgeteilt in alle Bezirke. Und dann gibt es noch unser Premium-Netzwerk auf dem Kurfürstendamm. Das sind knapp 33 Einzelstandorte mit jeweils 3 Displays drin, wunderschöne 270-Grad-Installationen. Und am 26.01. geht hier unser Berlin-Aufbau weiter. Bis Ende März werden wir nochmal 200 weitere City-Bildschirme in Berlin installieren. Ich glaube, die Herausforderung war auch so ein bisschen, das sind ja so Glaskästen, ne? Das sind so alte Glaskästen, wo das drin ist. Was ist denn die Herausforderung, Screens in Glaskästen zu installieren, Antonius?
Also die Herausforderung war definitiv, dass da eine Lüftung eingebaut werden muss. Jede Vitrine ist so ein Unikat und die sind ja über die Zeit entstanden und wurden von den Hausbesitzern immer unterschiedlich erneuert. Also so, dass jede Vitrine wirklich eine neue Herausforderung für sich darstellt. Wir haben dann aus dem Yachtbau haben wir oben Pilzlüfter installiert, damit das auch alles schön in die Ästhetik der Gesamtvitrine passt. Aber wir erhalten nach wie vor den Gesamttouch der alten Vitrine bei, nur jetzt modern ausgestattet. Wie kamten ihr beide? Ihr seid ja keine klassischen Out-of-Home-Leute. Wie kam es denn eigentlich, dass ihr in die Digital Out-of-Home-Branche eingestiegen seid?
Wir wollten mal selber eine Außenwerbekampagne schalten und haben uns dann angeguckt, wie die gängigen Buchungswege sind und mussten dann feststellen, dass unser Traum von einer Außenwerbekampagne innerhalb von einer Woche zu realisieren nicht möglich ist. Und wir haben festgestellt, es ist mit extrem hohen Startkosten, mit langen Vorlaufzeiten verbunden. Man kann nur einzelne Netzwerke buchen, man kann keine einzelnen Displays buchen. Es gibt vorgefertigte Zeiten und was uns besonders gestört hat, war der Gedanke, dass eine Google-Ad oder eine Facebook-Ad heutzutage innerhalb von 5 Minuten buchbar ist. Und im Außenwerberaum war das einfach zu dem Zeitpunkt noch nicht möglich. Wir haben das jetzt möglich gemacht mit unserer Plattform, die dieses Jahr im Juni gelauncht hat und werden diese in den kommenden Monaten immer weiter mit weiteren Features ausstatten.
Das heißt viel mehr als nur ein CMS. Das heißt, ich glaube, ihr habt sogar eine richtige Programmatikplattform, an der ihr gerade eben arbeitet.
Ja, definitiv. Also ich meine, das ganze Out-of-Home-Umfeld, Digital Out-of-Home-Umfeld ist ja sehr, sehr gesplittert zwischen den Advertisern und dann den Publishern. Wir haben eine Direktlösung entwickelt, womit die Advertiser direkt auf unser Inventar buchen können und werden das weiter und weiter ausbauen und noch mehr Features dazu bringen.
Ein Riesenthema ist ja auch Bewegtbild zurzeit bei der ganzen Sache. Amsterdam hat gerade verboten Bewegtbild. Hier in Berlin ist auch nicht ganz einfach. Ist das bei euch möglich? Das ist die erste Frage immer, die sicherlich alle Werbetreibenden wissen möchten.
Ja, also wir sind ja in Schaufenstern und halt am Kudamm in den Vitrinen und da haben wir genug Abstand zum Straßenverkehr. Sprich, bei uns gibt es keine Bewegtbildrestriktionen. Was natürlich auch ganz gerne genutzt wird von unseren Kunden, weil sie dadurch auch im schönen Hochformat ihre Social-Media-Kampagnen direkt bei uns in den Cities spiegeln können und keinen neuen Content dafür brauchen. Und das ist natürlich dann ganz gut. Vor allem gekoppelt mit dieser Schnelligkeit von Social Media lassen sich da wunderschöne Kampagnen schnell realisieren.
Das ist so ein bisschen eine wichtige Story für euch, glaube ich, ne? Weil ihr kommt ja aus dem Blockchain-Bereich und so ein bisschen das Schnelle, das Automatisierte ist ganz wichtig. Und ihr fokussiert euch ja, glaube ich, auch so ein bisschen gerade eben auf lokale Kunden teilweise auch und wollt denen helfen, dadurch, dass sie vorhandenen Content schon mal haben, den sie für Social Media produziert haben, eure Screens zu bringen. Man könnte so ein bisschen sagen, dass eure Screens so ein bisschen so eine Verlängerung von Instagram oder anderen Social-Media-Plattformen im öffentlichen Raum sind.
Ja, definitiv. Also ich meine, warum funktioniert das? Es ist so, dass man bei Social Media, man plant was, konzeptioniert etwas und man kann es direkt publishen, man hat es direkt draußen. Bei einem Außenwerbemedium, was 3 Monate von Planung und Konzeption zur Ausstrahlung braucht, ist sowas nicht möglich oder nur mit sehr viel Planung möglich. Bei uns, da wir keine Latenz im Endeffekt haben zwischen Planung und Ausspielung, können wir 1:1 Social-Media-Kampagnen, die auch schnelllebig sind, die spontan sind, können wir direkt so abbilden. Und das ist ein wunderschönes Medium dafür.
Jetzt seid ihr Disruptor, ihr seid neu in der Out-of-Home-Branche. Wurdet ihr willkommen? Was sind so die Herausforderungen, als der Kleine gegen so etablierte Elefanten oder Großschiffe anzutreten?
Ich muss sagen, wir sind sehr herzlich willkommen worden, vor allem auch von den Agenturen. Wir haben echt oft sehr, sehr gutes und sehr, sehr freundliches, positives Feedback bekommen. Erstmal, weil wir sehr nah mit unseren Kunden sind und weil wir natürlich einfach auch viele Vorteile bieten. Wir sind einmal extrem günstig im Moment. Wir können, wie gesagt, einzelne Standorte anbieten. Die Agenturen können die Zeiträume festbestimmen. Und wir haben einfach oft gehört, dass die Agenturen sich auch sehr darüber freuen, mal mit jemandem Neuem zu arbeiten und da mal so einen frischen Wind auch zu spüren in dem, was jetzt kommt.
Ja, jetzt leben wir in der Pandemie, wir tragen Masken, der nächste Lockdown wartet schon wieder auf uns. Was sind denn so die Herausforderungen, nicht nur für euch, sondern für Out of Home im Generellen, die ihr zurzeit spürt und die ihr vielleicht im laufenden Jahr, auch noch im kommenden Jahr auch noch seht?
Also wir sind ja dieses Jahr auf den Markt gegangen und eigentlich in der wirklich schwierigsten Phase, um wirklich auf den Markt zu gehen. Da kam gerade der erste Lockdown. Keiner wusste, ob man morgen noch draußen rumlaufen darf, was sich natürlich dann auf die Außenwerbung auswirkt. Nichtsdestotrotz konnten wir ganz gute Umsätze fahren, die ersten Kunden gewinnen und dann kam ja auch wurde das ja auch alles ein bisschen gelockerter. Jetzt gibt es sehr gute Zukunftsaussichten, also ich denke mal, die härteste Zeit ist überstanden und wir blicken auf jeden Fall positiv in die Zukunft und haben große Pläne für 2021.
Super, spannend. Wir haben ja schon ein bisschen gehört, die ersten Pläne, 200 neue zusätzliche Screens, die kommen nach Berlin. Auch jenseits Berlin schon Ideen?
Definitiv. Also wir wollten eigentlich ja schon längst in Köln gestartet sein. Wir sind da etwas von Corona zurückgeworfen worden. Werden jetzt erstmal hier Berlin abschließen, sodass wir hier unsere 500 Bildschirme wie geplant erreichen. Und 2021 ist unser Deutschlandjahr. Wir wollen 2021 in die 6 größten weiteren Städte in Deutschland auf jeden Fall unsere Displays aufbauen. Und im Jahr 2022 möchten wir dann erstmal in die Schweiz und nach Österreich auch gehen und uns danach Ende des Jahres 2022 in den größeren Städten Europas auch dann niederlassen.
Das ist mal Vision, fantastisch, super. Ja, vielen Dank, dass ihr da wart und wir werden das sicherlich weiter aufmerksam beobachten, was ihr so macht und auf invidis.de natürlich darüber berichten und ja, 1000 Dank, dass ihr da wart.
Vielen Dank.
Vielen lieben Dank.
So when we walked through Berlin today, there was one thing that struck us, and that's LED in shop windows. And it all started with the 11 Team Sports store. There you had the real entrance stage. It looks like a player's tunnel to the pitch. So really impressive. You walk through this LED wall and enter the store. And inside it's very dark, but you get this feeling of entering a football pitch.
That's the Champions League, huh? See? Champions League trophy. The real cool thing is all these are originals. So these are original boots from some really famous players. Diego Maradona just died a few days ago. Buffon. But that's really cool. So you can meet here with your friends and watch a game or so. It's really cool. So it's more a community hub.
But there was a lot more on Tauentzienstraße and Kudamm, so the main shopping district of the former West Berlin. And the first one is really iconic.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's a special installation. We believe it's just now for the Christmas time. It's Louis Vuitton. It's 3 or 4 stories high on the KaDeWe, which is the main luxury department store. We still have a department store here, luxury department store. And has been done really, really nicely. It's some very big investment, looked really nice. And there was even a little surprise because there was a QR code on the bottom and you tried it out.
Yeah, sure. I always try things out. And it actually activated an AR experience. So you put your phone next to the QR code and then you see a tree growing into that shop window. So nice, playful interaction that you could do there.
On the other side, coming from luxury to discount all the way, we have this Polish shoe label. It's called CCC. They closed their store, unfortunately, yesterday, but it was plastered with LED in the shop window, inside the store, behind the checkout. Everything was full of LED.
And still running.
And still running. Even the shop was already closed yesterday. So unfortunately, it shows digital signage is not a guarantee that you're successful with your store. But obviously, with CCC, lots of their stores in Poland and other places, they're quite into digital and they really like it. Coming to another Polish retailer.
Reserved. Well known for large LED walls, a lot of digital content. In this case, they had a huge LED wall on the first floor, well visible from the outside, from the street. The only challenge with that is content. So they decided to duplicate a couple of content pieces which looked good with visuals, with photos, but they also showed text, and that was a bit strange, especially because it was in Polish.
Well, we're here at Pick in Cloppenburg on Kurfürstendamm in the city center of Berlin. Quite interesting, we see Hypervision, these 3D LED propellers. Usually I'm not a big fan of that, to be honest, but this one looks fantastic. It's very transparent, it's only one, has a nice picture quality to it and gives a great effect to it. So it's a really nice example how Hypervision LED propellers really can be implemented in your point of purchase display. Looks really nice here in the shop window of Pick in Cloppenburg. Our highlight of today was not KaDeWe, but the CNA, which is usually not a place of experience, but this one is a very, very special, just recently opened flagship store. So what was so special about the store?
It was the total experience in that store, and it was just well done. It's just the right amount of digital, not too much, not too little. Also content-wise, integration-wise, it's just a very, very nice concept, something you wouldn't expect from a CNA.
And then throughout the store, the checkout, self-checkout was really, really, really nice. Was very simple, very easy to go. Right lettering was very easy to understand, where to place a product and everything. So I really like this one.
My personal favorite was the customizing zone. Something you see at Adidas, Nike or Levi's. CNA can do it as well. They had this digital station, touchscreens, where you could have embroideries or prints on your t-shirts. So that's a local touch because it had a reference to Berlin, but also a brand touch because it has had references to CNA.
And probably one of the trend of 2020-21 is really this personalization. We were in New York beginning of the year when we were still allowed to travel, and we saw lots of them, in many department stores, many brand stores, flagship stores. You could always personalize your product. So that's been even all the way to remover, where you can exchange have different color of wheels and everything. So that's one of the trends, and quite interesting to see that somebody like CNA really adopted this trend and brought it to their store.
So in that store, it's not only digital for the ambience, but also digital services like customization, like self-checkout, or like the small touchscreens in the fitting rooms that allow you to order a different size to the fitting room and things like that. So it's really the multitude of, or the whole spectrum of digital that was used in that store.
The whole atmosphere, the materials used, lots of wood, lots of living walls and everything. So it was really nice ambient there, I must say, and very, very unusual for CNA. So the next time you come to Berlin, please have a look and visit the store, really good. CNA, Stefan, where do you find it?
Kurfürstendamm, Kudamm in Berlin.
Fantastic. This is the Planet Boss, it's a special Christmas display, and they pretty much booked the whole, the whole front of the department store. Quite interesting and quite a nice idea to play with digital and with mannequins or so, but this mannequin, as you can see, is a little bit too dominant. It blocks too much of the screen. So you cannot see the message. You can see it here now. There's some letters on the content and everything, but it's blocked by the mannequin. So the idea is quite nice, but it's too massive to be placed in front of the screen. So that was, I think, quite interesting to see how much LED nowadays is in big cities and downtown stores. And yes, it's quite a dull day today. It's mid-December. It's raining out there. So the LED really brought some bright ideas and some fresh things to the shopping one, which is obviously in these pandemic times not the most nice thing to do. And the experience is very limited. You have to line up and everything, but it looked quite nice.
Yeah, and it's just a couple of meters to walk, and you see many LED installations.
Absolutely. That's it from Berlin. But we have much more to come in the next weeks and months. And please send us more of the feedback. It's really, really great how much feedback we receive from you via mail in the comments here at YouTube. And it's fantastic for us to get this feedback and to learn more about what really interests you. So in the next couple of weeks, we will travel to Barcelona, to Zurich, to London, to many other places, also to Asia. So if you have any projects there, if you know an integrator, if you know something which we should really visit, please send us a mail and we are happy to include it in the next program. So thank you for watching invidis Meets World and see you soon on this channel.